Hey everyone, it's Michelle,
And Brandy.
and this is Spooky Shit. So this week we're talking about deadly divorces, aka don't even think about divorce.
But yeah, and then I'm gonna start off by talking about Laurie hacking.
And I'm going to talk about Janet March.
Warning: this episode may contain graphic details. Listener discretion is advised.
But first, how are you doing, Brandy?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm glad we had this chat. I'm good. Very exciting news over here, actually. So I got Animal Crossing on the Switch last month. We got a Switch last month. And no big deal, but my Nook's Cranny is finally updating today. So tomorrow I'm going to have the second version of the store. Pretty pumped, pretty excited.
Nice.
This is my exciting news.
For me, nothing. I mean, it's payday tomorrow. But actually, last weekend, I went to my cousin's Sweet 16.
Oh, cool. How was that?
So it was fun. It was supposed to be her quinceañera, but COVID. Yeah, so they turned it into a Sweet 16.
Well, hey, that's convenient.
But yeah, it was really fun. It was cool. So, Alaris got to meet some of my family from Mexico. So it was pretty cool.
That's fun.
Yeah, it was a little weird because some
Why
of
was
them
it
are
weird?
because some of them are conservative.
Oh, did they know?
And actually, no, they knew.
Okay.
Or I assume they knew.
Shit, they
honestly,
better. They know now.
I don't really talk. Well, it's kind of like not my mom's immediate family. It's kind of it was more like her aunt's family.
Oh, people that you never even fucking see.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen them. Like, I know of them, but it's like my mom's cousins more. Like, it's not my. Like, it's my second cousin's. It was my second cousin's birthday. So it was like my mom's cousin's daughter. And it was like her parents and like mostly like her brothers and their kids.
And it was weird.
It was, and then it was like a few of my grandma's like siblings too that went, and then like us, and then but yeah, it was a lot of family from Mexico. And then obviously like my uncle's, my cousin's dad, like his family and stuff that I haven't seen in forever.
Oh wow.
Because they used to live over here in Compton.
Oh, that's
but
really
they
close.
like, yeah, basically everyone moved to Arizona. They all live over there.
Why has everyone moved to Arizona? That's where like both sets of my grandparents live.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it was cool.
Did anyone say anything, or they was just awkward?
Actually, a lot of people didn't recognize me.
Really?
Yeah.
They were like, "Who are you?"
Like, no, like dead ass. Like, a lot of them didn't recognize me. Like, one of my cousins from Mexico that I honestly haven't seen her since she was like little. Like, she's younger than me, and she literally came up to me and she's like, "Are you Brandy?" And I was like, "Yeah."
That's so fucking
She's like,
funny.
"Oh my god, hi, how are you?" And then her mom, my aunt, came by the table too, and she's like, "See, mom, I told you it was her." And then I was like, "Yeah, it's me." And then they were just telling me that that basically all my clothes my grandma would save and give to her, and they were just telling me that, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, I didn't know what to say, even though they're family, you know. It was just kind of awkward.
No, I feel that way with a lot of my family that I never talk to, and I see them like once a year, and I'm like, we don't have anything in common. I don't know what to say.
But yeah, it's kind of funny too, because actually my aunt's side of the family and uncles have actually, like, their moms have been friends for like ever.
Oh, okay.
So they kind of like all grew up together in a way.
Yeah.
Which was cool, because I mean, I obviously know like their aunts and stuff, and some of them too like came up to me and they were like, they actually, one of them confused me for my brother.
Really?
They were like, "Oh, is this Bitter?" And then I was like, "No,
it's Brandel."
Yeah. And then, well, I mean, the way I was dressed too, you know, I dressed more masculine.
Of course.
I had my cowboy hat on and everything.
You brought the cowboy hat out.
I did.
Ooh, so real party.
And I thought my uncles that usually wear it too, I thought they would wear it because that gave me the confidence to wear mine.
Yeah.
But they didn't. I was literally the only one with the damn cowboy hat.
Well, they're little bitches.
I was like, what kind of bullshit?
What kind of bullshit is this? Where's your cowboy hats?
But I look good, so I ain't
So who
tripping.
gives a shit?
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. It was nice to see a few people that I hadn't seen. Like, they were just like, some of them like were happy for me, and they were like, you know,
Yeah.
just like, as long as you're happy, like, who gives a shit? Because I mean, there was the older conservatives that were kind of just staring.
I can't believe you were
and
just
shit like that.
spreading the gay agenda at family
Right?
parties.
Deadass.
It's like so crazy.
Like deadass.
Well, I'm glad you had fun.
Yeah, it was cool.
Really funny that people thought that you were literally your brother.
No, deadass. It was funny. Like,
Oh my
she
God.
literally was like, "Oh, you Victor?" Because I mean, they haven't seen us in the.
You should have lied and been like, yes.
I thought about it. I thought about it, but I was like, nah.
That would have been so funny.
You can cut this out, or you don't have to. But they actually, some of them, I guess, knew.
You're trans?
I'm trans.
Yeah. I'll cut
And
this
they
out.
actually, like the one that mistook me for my brother is actually like my uncle's mom. And she was like, "Oh, is this Victor?" I was like, "No." And then she like gave me a hug, and she's like, "Oh, sorry, you guys look so much alike." And she was like, "But it's okay though. Like, I know you're a man." And she's like, she gave me a little kiss, and I was like, I almost started crying because I was like, "What the fuck?"
That's so cute.
And then one of his other like aunts too that I hadn't seen forever, but I remember their faces, but I don't remember names or like exactly who they are.
Mm-hmm.
But she came up to me because I actually like got up to the bathroom, and I think when I came out. She was like, we made eye contact, and I like kind of remember her, but I like wasn't gonna go approach her.
Yeah.
But we were sitting like near the entrance / exit like door, and she like was walking in or out, and she was like, "Do you remember me?" I was like, kinda." And then she like just kind of talked to me, and she was like, "What do you want me?" Or like, "What do you like that they call you?" And I know, like, mija or mijo. Like, she actually asked what my pronouns were. I was like, "Oh my god!" And then she was just
What did you
telling
tell
me.
her though?
I told her like,
Okay.
I told her it doesn't matter because I get scared when
you're like mijo.
No, I get scared when people ask me about my pronouns.
That's true. They could be like fucking insane.
Actually, you can leave all this in.
Really?
Fuck it. Yes.
Wait. Brandy, I was gonna do a whole thing and be like, it's a boy, and do like a baby celebration. I don't even have balloons.
It's okay. I can officially, but you could just leave this in here. I don't really care.
This isn't official, but it's
Nah.
a little official.
Oh, it's a little
Oh
official.
my
I mean,
God.
technically,
Oh
on
my
my
God.
Instagram, I came out that Pride that we went together. Like, I'm wearing
Remember?
trans shit.
Wait. Okay, now that you're fucking saying it on the podcast, I want to say before Pride, me and Robert didn't know, obviously, and you were talking to us at work, and you're like, wouldn't say what you're gonna wear to Pride, and I was like, are you gonna dress like hoish, Brandy?
I was like,
it's because you're
quite
wearing the
opposite.
trans shirt.
Yeah.
I was so confused. I was like, I don't think you dress like that, but it's Pride. I don't know. Everyone does.
I was just really scared. I mean, I still get scared to like
Some
like
people
when people I have gotten
dangerous.
asked like, you know, what pronouns do you prefer, and I always say like, no, I don't care, but I mean, I do care.
You do care. You're just scared.
Yeah, I'm just scared to like admit it
Yeah.
out loud, you know, because then it becomes real.
Yeah. And you never know, someone could be like insane. I think that this podcast probably doesn't help you feel better, especially our Pride Month one. Holy shit.
I know. I mean, I do want to like officially like I guess confirm it because I have like left hints.
Ooh.
And like my immediate family knows, and some of my aunts. I'm just like scared. I mean, I'm not like all the people that listen to this. I know like there are people that already kind of know. Like, I know my family from Mexico isn't gonna listen to this, so I'm not like tripping about it.
They listen, they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I know they're not listening.
We talk about gay shit all the time on this podcast. If you're like a TERF or something, fuck out of here. J.K. Rowling's listening now, like.
But yeah, I'm just really scared to like admit it, you know?
Yeah, I'll beat anyone's ass if you want.
I'm scared to like take that leap and start, you know? It's just scary.
Have you decided on a name yet?
I haven't. So that's kind of
Okay.
another reason I've been like holding off on like starting and everything is
Mhm.
because like I don't know. I just can't like find like I don't have a name that I feel like suits me or like that I like.
I think that the very masculine French name Michel would be good. This is Michelle and Michel.
You're right. I mean, I don't know. There's a few names on my list. It's just,
It's actually
I
like
guess I have to try
such
them
a
out,
hard
you know?
decision.
It
Choosing a
is.
name, like that's a
Like,
big
the
fucking
fuck?
deal.
It is. I mean, I actually like talk in this group chat
Mm-hmm.
with fellow LGBTQ members, and they all say that a lot of people have like recycled names, and like
Yeah.
it's you just gotta try them and see what like you know.
Yeah. And people will call you and be like, "Oh God, that sounds awful."
Yeah, it's like oh no, not that one, or just
Never
like
mind.
confidence and stuff like that. Like
Well,
whatever gives you confidence and feels
feel free
right.
to try out different names every week of the podcast, and we could just really confuse everyone. Every week, be like, and just say
And
whatever.
Brian, no, I'm just
Brian. Next week, Tony.
kidding.
You know, I was waiting. I mean, obviously, you haven't chosen a name or anything, but whenever Leah left the podcast and I went and changed our info and everything, I purposely didn't put our names. I just said like hosted in San Diego because I was like, I don't want to have to go change 100 fucking episodes when you finally choose one.
That's smart. You're
See,
right.
thinking ahead. This is exciting. Oh my god.
But yeah.
Well, shit. I loved the second of the, you know what, fuck it, keep it in. If you change your mind too, let me know and I'll cut it back out. But
should have saved it for the Patreon.
damn it, you should have been like, give us $10 and Brandy will come out.
But yeah, that was my weekend. I just was really
in
tired.
Your life. I can't top that, Brandy. I have nothing going on. Come on.
Well, you're going to Disneyland tomorrow.
I'm going to Disneyland on Saturday in 2 days.
Oh, Saturday.
So it kind of just feels like boring after a year too. But yeah, I'm going to Disneyland, so that's gonna be cool. They finally announced that they're gonna do the annual passes again. Me and Brandy are both probably gonna get those.
Yeah.
Oh, we should go the same day. That didn't occur to me. We should meet.
We should meet up there?
Yeah.
Or what do you mean?
We should meet at Disneyland.
Oh, okay.
Brandy, you were so silent. I was like, I'm getting rejected
no,
on a recording right now. I'm cutting that out. Your silence when I said we should meet. I was like, it feels like I just got stabbed.
No, like literally Laris has been waiting for this moment. Like she's been saying, well, because they release or they're available for sale on my brother's birthday.
Oh, hey.
And so she's like been like, she'll like say like, hey, the passes came out. She'll just give me a look. And I'm like, fuck, because I know what that means, you know? Like, I don't even have a say.
You're gonna be broke.
Yep. I mean, I do have a say, but...
You love Disneyland. Shut up.
I know.
You guys cannot see in the background of Brandy's room right now is 2 shelves full of, like, those... Where are they, like... Pop Funkos? Yeah, you're like, oh, I don't have a say. There's like 20 Disney memorabilia.
Dude, I fucking love Disneyland.
You love Disney. I like don't to act pretend like you don't want it.
I like to pretend that I'm miserable when we like go. But honestly, like I'm dying on the inside.
Internally screaming.
Yeah, like I love it. Like the only times I do like get moody and stuff is just when I'm tired and like. My friend Mickey just loves to stay there until they fucking close, and I'm like, bruh.
We do that sometimes, but some days I'm just like, fuck that. I think if we get a pass, we won't feel as much pressure to stay late, you know? Because we could be like, we'll just come back fucking next weekend if we want.
See, even with the pass and even going like once a week, every week, like she would still push it, and I'd be like, bruh, like I'm fucking dying, and then they would get mad at me.
Yourself?
No, deadass. And then they would get mad at me because I'm like all moody and shit. And it's like, well, bro, I'm tired, and you like, you're pushing me.
It's tiring being there. It's fun, but by the end of the day, it's exhausting. We always just end up sitting somewhere eating, and we're like, we should just leave.
I just hate it too because, like, I mean, we don't live that far, but it's still a bit of a drive.
Yeah, it's an hour and a half-ish, right? An hour and
Yeah.
20 from me. Yeah.
It's an hour and a half for me.
Yeah. So it's not too far, but obviously if you're doing that every weekend, there and back,
Yeah.
probably feels like far, and you're probably not going to be
So,
spending the night much,
yeah.
if ever. But yeah, very exciting news. Disneyland, it's a boy. Lots going on. Can I name the episode and It's a Boy?
Sure.
I love that joke.
I
think it's
actually
really
kind of want to
funny.
do like
A picture on Instagram?
like a coming out party. Like, have you seen that? Like, where it's a boy.
Like a baby shower, but you're an
Yeah,
adult? Yes! Let's
I've
do it!
seen that.
We should do it at Disneyland.
Oh, and also one last little fun thing. Shout out to Kyla.
Oh, shout out Kyla. Oh, does Kyla
She
listen?
Yeah, she does.
Does Kyla know? She knows now.
Oh fuck, I didn't think about that.
I can still cut it out if you want.
No, that's fine.
Kyla, don't tell anyone.
Yeah, don't tell anyone, Kyla.
Keep it on the down low for now.
But she knows I like have hella hats and I love Disney. Like everyone knows at work I love Disney.
Oh yeah, you
but
love Disney,
I always
you love
talk
your Disney
about how
hats.
many hats I have.
Uh-huh.
So she like basically gave me a challenge for this month and to basically not repeat a hat.
I feel like that's more than possible, right? You have
Yes,
that many
I
hats.
have about 40 something hats. Actually, to be honest, I actually created a spreadsheet
of your
my
hats?
hats. I can share it with you if you want.
We're gonna get a Patreon, and this is what we're gonna share with you.
I have 29 dad hats.
Oh, you're doing it by style too?
Yeah, I did. Deadass broke it all. That actually, it's more than that. It's 30, 31, 32. 32 dad hats.
Jesus.
I have 17, 18 snapbacks.
Holy shit, dude.
And then 3 just like other ones, like bucket hat, my cowboy hat, and like a fedora.
Hats.
Yeah, etc. hats. And I also have like 6 beanies.
Dude, whenever we last went to Disneyland, we were looking at the hats, and I was like, oh, easy. For Christmas and Brandy's birthday, I'm just going to get hats. And then I was like, motherfucker, you already own all the hats at Disneyland. I can't even get you them.
You know, like you could probably get me like Disney hats that are like from Ross or some shit. Like because they usually sell like different ones that I was
gonna say I'm gonna have to get you like Etsy ones where they're like one of a kind.
Oh yeah, that's what Leah did for last Christmas, I think.
Oh shit! Okay, I'm gonna fucking do that. Forget about this conversation.
No, I mean I love it. I mean I do. I'm running out of space, but I honestly love it. Like hats, pop Funkos. I like to collect.
You're like, I have to go to Disneyland. Bleh, I'm gonna buy more hats and pop Funkos though.
Yeah, deadass.
I'm like, you fucking love Disneyland, you liar.
But yeah, she basically challenged me to wear a different hat every day. So
I am.
I even like made a little spreadsheet of like basically a calendar.
I'm loving all the spreadsheets going on here.
I know. I basically like made the calendar and I'm putting what hat I wear that day.
So you don't accidentally do it?
Yeah, so I'm keeping myself accountable.
Oh gosh. Accountability.
Yeah.
That is so fucking funny. Shout out Kyla. Don't tell anyone about the beginning of this though. Tell Brandy's ready. But after all that excitement, shall we move on to sadness?
Yeah, let's go there.
Yeah, how are we supposed to go into murder now?
Yeah. Yeah, this will definitely be sad, I'll say that. It's a roller coaster. It'll take you really high, and now we're about to plummet.
All the way down, guys.
90-degree angle. No, I'm just kidding. That's scary, actually.
Fuck no.
So, Laurie K. Soares Hacking was born on December 31st, 1976. I'm not sure where, because she was actually adopted.
Oh, okay.
She was adopted by Thelma and Harold Soares. Harold was a Spanish and Portuguese teacher for Sunny Hills High School, which is a high school in Fullerton.
Oh, okay, cool.
He was actually from Piracicaba, Brazil. So he's Brazilian.
Oh.
And he met Thelma when they both served as missionaries for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints
They're
in
Mormons.
Rio de Janeiro.
So they're Mormons. Isn't that Mormons? LDS?
I believe, yeah, they're Mormons.
Okay, cool.
I mean, I'm guessing. They did say something about Mormons.
Okay.
But yeah, where did I put? Oh, they met, they got married, and then they adopted Laurie. After they divorced in 1987, Thelma and Laurie relocated to Orem, Utah.
Cool.
Also, she had a younger, or actually, I'm not sure if he was younger or older, but she had a brother named Paul.
Oh, okay. Lori did?
Yeah.
Got it.
So yeah, Laurie attended Orem High School in Utah, and this is where she met her high school sweetheart, Mark Douglas Hacking.
Okay.
What
It's
a name.
bad name. Getting bad vibes.
Mm-hmm. They were together for 10 years and married for 5 of those years.
Oh,
They
fuck.
were together for a long ass time.
Yeah.
Deadass almost meaningless.
Oh my
Well,
god.
No,
Actually,
we
yeah.
haven't been married for 10 years.
But you've
We've been together for 6.
I guess we're really rounding up here.
Yeah. I'm exaggerating.
Basically, you guys have been together for 30 years.
We've been together like my whole life.
Yeah.
But yeah, they loved each other very much. Laurie's family actually loved Mark as well. Like they loved him. Thelma actually has been quoted saying that she couldn't have asked for a better son-in-law.
Oh.
You know, obviously before everything happened.
Of course.
But, they described Mark as an outgoing romantic and a total goofball. And Laurie was described as the polar opposite. She was more like private and practical.
Yeah.
But they said like it just worked for them, you know, opposites attract.
Yeah.
So they say. Which I mean, I agree.
Are you and Alaris opposites?
In some ways, yeah, but in a lot of ways we're also alike.
I was gonna say I feel like me and Robert are very alike.
Like I feel like we're a lot alike in the sense like we both like being home, like shit like that. But then the more
maybe
comfortable,
the way you present yourself, because I feel like you're more outgoing.
Yeah. I am more outgoing, especially the more I'm like feeling more comfortable in like my body and trying to figure out my identity and stuff.
Cowboy hat on.
Yeah.
Shit.
No, like getting more comfortable in my identity and stuff, like figuring out who I am. I have been way more outgoing. And I am just a little more like bubbly, I guess. Whereas she's more reserved and like shy, and she literally like won't talk to you unless you talk to her, and even then like it's hard to like conversate with her because she's really shy.
That's me too. That's why whenever Alaris comes over, you could see the struggle between us.
Yeah,
we're both trying.
I mean,
and then you and Robert are fine.
Yeah, I guess I am pretty outgoing.
Yeah, you definitely are.
But yeah. Shortly before her disappearance, the family had learned that she was 5 weeks pregnant. They had so much to look forward to.
Until
the Fire Nation attacked. No,
Shut
I'm just
the fuck up, Randy. You said the fire, and I was like, oh my god, there was a fire?
No. But yeah, they were actually planning to move to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, where Mark had enrolled in medical school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Thelma did worry, or like express worry, because they would... Oh, Thelma's the mom, if you don't remember.
Yeah, the soon-to-be grandma.
Yes. I guess she expressed worry that, like, about Laurie, that she was going to have a baby and they were going to be far away, and that Laurie was the one that's going to be basically the breadwinner.
Yeah. Just typical mom shit. Sounds like.
On July 19th, 2004, Mark frantically called 911 at approximately 10 in the morning to report his wife missing.
Oh, no.
He said that she had gone for a jog to the Memory Grove and City Creek Canyon, which I guess was basically like almost a ritual for her. She would always go for a jog and then like go home and change and go to work.
She had her little routine.
Yeah, it was a little routine.
Okay.
But because she never showed up, Mark worried, and he like even called like friends and colleagues,
Oh, wow.
but no one had any idea where she was. She was 27 at the time of her disappearance,
Hmm.
and she had been working at Wells Fargo as a stockbroker's assistant.
Oh, I used to bank
So
with them.
she made money. She
Yeah,
was
it
good.
fucking sounds like it.
Yeah. She had actually, I think, going to like she put in like her 2 weeks. So it was
Oh.
like the last little few days because they were gonna move.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, apparently Mark called the police again approximately 40 minutes later to report that he'd found Laurie's car parked near the canyon entrance where she had gone jogging.
Did the police not respond in that 40 minutes? I guess they probably were like, oh, she's probably on a jog. It's not important.
No, I think they did, or they just started elsewhere, you know what I mean?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Well, because they weren't sure where she was, like she was just missing.
True.
So a search began with numerous volunteers stepping up to help. Mark seemed grateful for this assistance as he spoke to in front of the television camera that day. He urged everyone to help him look for his wife. He also seemed heartbroken and distraught. And for those who knew the couple personally, had no reason to suspect Mark had any involvement.
Okay.
But to the lead detective, Kelly Clint, he was sus AF. From the get-go.
Oh my god.
But yeah, they did like search the house, and there were a number of circumstantial clues in their home. At least like she took them as clues.
Mm-hmm.
She discovered that Laurie's purse was just sitting at home with her wallet still inside.
And she'd normally take that on runs, probably. Or,
I mean,
maybe not.
that's what Mark said. He was like, no, well, she wouldn't take it on her jog.
Mm-hmm.
But I personally, maybe it's just me, but I never leave the house without my wallet, keys, and phone.
Yep. Every time that Robert goes on a run, I say bye to him, and then we together say phone, keys, knife, wallet, or mask, and then he just like goes and makes sure that he has everything.
Yeah.
Especially, wait, she drove to the place too. She needs her ID.
Yeah, that's weird.
Okay.
Like you would leave it in the car if anything.
I was gonna say at least leave in the car. Yeah, that's really weird.
Sketch, right?
Very sus AF.
But yeah, secondly, Detective Kent found that the bathtub was squeaky clean and even smelled like bleach.
Oh, that's cool. So they were just doing some cleaning. Only the bathtub.
I guess their bed sheets were also washed and like described as crisp, like they had just been bought. There was also a bouquet of flowers sitting on the dresser, indicating that there was something going on between the two, and Mark may have not been telling the truth.
Oh, like maybe they got in a fight and he bought her flowers.
Yeah, like they got in a fight and like she got her flowers.
That's
type
honestly
thing.
Hilarious.
It's like, that's a good detective.
Not even just like, oh, they like flowers. They're like, clearly there was a divorce brewing.
Something has happened here. But they also found her ring, her wedding ring, in her jewelry box. Which, unless she's like super forgetful, I feel she would have on her.
Yeah, so I'm not married. Do you like wear your wedding ring at all times, even if you go on runs?
I do.
Okay, you do.
I actually only take it off to shower. I mean, I don't need to, but it's just.
I was like, I feel like most people wear it in the shower.
No, it feels weird like when I try to like rub shampoo and stuff.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it gets like stuck in there, or not stuck in there, but like it gets in there.
It gets stuck in this band.
I just don't like the feeling, so I personally take it off. But that's the only time I take it off. I don't take it off to wash my hands or nothing.
Interesting.
But like Alaris, actually, she is forgetful sometimes, and
okay.
I mean, I'm not trying to brag, but it is a bigger like rock.
And shut the fuck up, Randy. Swear to God.
At work, we have to wear gloves, and she like rips them. So I bought her.
I'm not trying to brag, but
it's not. It's actually not even that big.
Oh my God.
I'm just exaggerating. But I actually bought her like a silicone ring.
Oh, to wear at work?
Yeah, to wear at work. And even then, sometimes she forgets it. So, I mean,
okay. So some people just forget.
Yeah.
But based on other information we know, probably wasn't just
Yeah.
forgetful.
Yeah. But yeah, digging further, they also discovered that Mark had just bought a new mattress. They found that out because I guess the box spring didn't match the mattress, like different. I guess it was slightly different size or pattern or something like that.
Weird.
They also found a hunting knife in Mark's drawer that had blood on it.
Oh, well, that's a big one.
He said that it was from a recent hunt, but Detective Kent was convinced otherwise.
Yikes.
And then we find out later that he had actually bought the mattress in between the 2 phone calls he made to police when he was supposedly searching for Laurie.
That's so weird.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's also just stupid. Why not buy it before you call at all?
Right? In addition, like when they did find Laurie's car, they noticed that the driver's seat was adjusted for like someone taller than her.
Ugh.
Not to mention, there was blood in the back seat.
Oh, okay. I feel like this is the dumbest person ever. You clean the bath, clean the sheets, buy a new mattress, but then you leave blood on a knife and in the car?
Yeah. But yeah, in the early mornings of July 20th, the next day, Detective Kent got a phone call from an emergency operator stating that someone matching Mark's description was seen running around butt naked and hysterical.
It's all been there.
But I guess he had his sandals on, which I guess to them is kind of like a sign that you're not actually psychotic.
Yeah, he had enough forethought to be like, don't want to cut up my little feet.
Yeah, like I feel like if you really did go crazy, like the last thing you would think of is fucking putting your sandals on.
Yeah. Oh,
And it actually has been like commented by like a psychologist or something like that.
Really?
But yeah, he was admitted to a hospital for mental evaluation.
They're like, he's fine.
I mean, they kind of knew he was just like faking it, but they still like submitted him because obviously that's what he wanted.
Just for show.
Yeah. But yeah, Laurie's friends and family knew that Laurie wasn't the kind of person who would just run away. They assumed that she was abducted and continued to search for any clues as to where she might be.
Oh my gosh.
They just suspected that she had been abducted or like
by like a stranger.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was their theory right now. And besides Detective Kent, she was like sus.
Yeah. Sus AF.
But yeah, the police checked in with the University of North Carolina and the University of Utah, and the discovery was truly shocking.
Uh-oh.
Turns out he wasn't enrolled at the university, like he said, and they had no record of him.
Wait. What the fuck?
Yeah. He had also never even graduated from University of Utah.
What?
Like he said. He managed to fake everything. He had actually dropped out 2 years prior than what he said he graduated.
Oh my god.
And his lie went far. He literally pretended to attend classes, like he actually studied textbooks, and he would even write term papers.
What the fuck?
He even went as far as to travel across the country to fake interviews at different medical schools.
Oh my god.
Like, I literally read, I think Paul, it was like, they were interviewing him, and he talked about a time that she literally, like, drove him, and he was, like, all dressed up in a suit, and she, like, dropped him off. And
what
then he came back a few hours later and was like, oh, yeah, this and this happened.
He's literally just a pathological liar.
He did ass. Family members were obviously stunned. Like, the fuck? You thought you know someone and you don't?
Especially, God, I'm sure Laurie, if she found out, I'm assuming that's where this is going, is probably like, what the fuck? Because they've been together for 10 years. Can you imagine Alaris just all of a sudden being like, oh, this thing I said I did has actually been a lie and I've been faking it hardcore?
Sheesh. That's almost like, I said I loved you, but I was actually just kidding.
Yeah, I'm actually married to someone else.
Sheesh.
Jeez. No.
But yeah, they were obviously stunned, especially because Mark's family, they valued education, like...
Oh, of course
like,
they did.
Hella.
So that's probably why he was lying.
Yeah. His father was a pediatrician, his mother was a nurse, and his two brothers, Scott and Lance, both had careers in science.
Whoa, Jesus Christ. I would
So they
hate to
were
be in that
all like
family.
smart and successful.
I'd just be like, I'm trying to be a streamer, guys.
Yeah. A forensic psychologist, Dr. Kathy Yates, commented and says it wasn't surprising to learn about Mark's ability to fool those closest to him. He was able to deceive with such detailed accuracy in terms of creating a persona that he wanted everybody to believe, and that tells me he's bright. If somebody's clever and crosses their T's and dots their I's and they are in healthy relationships with people, it would be very hard not to be deceived.
Yeah.
It's like, damn.
She read him like a book.
But yeah, after this discovery, the police also found out that Laurie had figured out he was lying before her disappearance. They found out that on July 16th, Laurie had called the medical school to ask about financial aid. Or like, it was like a financial aid question, like something about paying tuition, something like that. But they told her that he wasn't enrolled, let alone had never even applied.
Holy shit. That would be so, like, terrifying to be in her
Right?
position and confusing.
She had actually like called while at work, and her coworkers saw her like basically leave work early in tears.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess later that night, they saw her again for her going away party. And she seemed like fine.
Oh, okay. He probably was like just trying to smooth things over with her where she went home.
But she did want to leave him and file for divorce.
Oh,
Police
fuck.
say so because they found a letter from Laurie to Mark in the couple's spare bedroom. In it, she basically pleaded with Mark to change his behavior, writing, "I want to grow old with you, but I can't do it under these conditions.
Oh.
I can't imagine life with you if things don't change."
She was still gonna give him a chance?
Mm-hmm.
She's such a sweetheart. What the fuck?
Yeah, dude, she sounded really sweet.
Oh.
But yeah, I guess it was kind of confusing on this one source, but basically, I'm guessing this is how it played. She went home crying and obviously like confronted him, and they kind of got into an argument about it, and Mark actually ended up leaving. Like, he just kind of disappeared, and she was like obviously crying. Like, she actually like called like one of their close friends, like mutual friends, and she was just crying on the phone. Like, I don't think she was able to tell her anything.
Yeah.
She just cried on the phone, and she ended up finding him, or like he came back, and he was like at a hotel an hour away.
Yeah. What the fuck,
Sus.
dude?
But yeah, the friends, like, after they saw her, I think the next day, or talked to her the next day, and she basically was like, "Oh, like, we reconciled and made up," so they didn't really question it. Yeah, they weren't worried. But yeah, I guess it was later revealed, or like he basically tried to say that it was a computer error. Like, that's why his name didn't come up. Like, that's what it must have been. Or I found another source that says that he was just like, "Oh, sorry, like, I think I might have forgotten to register or some shit."
He was just lying again.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, Laurie was last seen in a convenience store with Mark near where they lived, sometime in the evening. They also saw Mark return to that same convenience store around 1 a.m. by himself.
What did he buy? Somehow a shovel, gloves, tape.
I don't think they said anything, but they were just kind of like, "That's sus. Did he killed her already?" Like, there were so many questions in that article. Like, had he killed her? Was he going to? Like,
that's so creepy to think about.
Yeah.
Like, in the few hours between them being there together and him going alone, possibly he killed her.
Ugh. But yeah, while Mark was still on psychiatric hold, his two brothers, Scott and Lance, visited him and encouraged him to tell the truth. On July 24th, 2004, he confessed to them that he had, on July 18th, had an argument and told her the truth about medical school. He said that later that night he shot her while she slept and then put her body in a dumpster.
Oh my god.
Well, he rolled up her body in a carpet and then.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm extra disturbed. It wasn't like a heat of the moment split decision. He waited till she fell asleep.
I mean, I feel like at least she didn't feel any pain.
Oh no, at least she didn't feel anything. But that's like premeditated, no?
Yeah, I would
Ugh.
say so.
Fuck.
But yeah, Scott and Lance shared Mark's confession with his attorney, D. Gilbert Athay, who informed police.
Damn.
Mark was arrested on August 2nd and charged with first-degree murder on August 9th.
Oof.
And since they knew that she had gone to like the landfill, they searched for her remains until they were discovered 2 months later.
Well, they actually found them.
Yeah, from what I can gather, they only found like pieces, but it was enough.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, on October 1st, at approximately 8 in the morning, they found some human remains. And by the
Gross.
afternoon, they confirmed that it was Laurie.
Oh.
On October 29th, 2004, he actually had pleaded not guilty. And
okay.
then he basically had to like redo it, or like they waited. And on April 15th, 2005, Mark pleaded guilty for first-degree murder in exchange for prosecutors dropping other charges.
Oh.
And since Laurie's remains were too decomposed to verify her pregnancy, he did not face the death penalty.
Oh, they're gonna charge him like with an extra murder charge.
Yeah.
Damn.
But that's kind of his quote at sentencing. I intentionally shot Laurie Hacking in the head with a .22 rifle on July 19th, 2004. She was the greatest thing that ever happened to me, but I killed her and took the life of my unborn child and put them in the garbage, and I can't explain why I did it.
Ugh. What a creep.
Yeah.
Fuck.
On June 6, 2005, he was sentenced to 6 years to life in prison, which was the maximum possible sentence under the Utah law at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I guess in Utah, prison sentences are intermittent?
Intermittent?
Yes, that word.
I don't know if I could say it again.
Intermittent?
Intermittent.
What basically means like with the minimum and maximum time frame.
Okay.
So the offender must serve the entire sentence unless the Utah Board of Pardons releases him sooner.
Yeah, which probably isn't gonna happen for this dude.
Yeah. But actually in July, the Utah Board of Pardons declared that Mark would not be considered for parole until at least 2035.
There we go. Yep.
Yeah.
Of course.
So he has to serve a minimum of 30 years.
Oh shit, that's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
But yeah, they determined this because of the fact that he covered up the murder by disposing her body and falsely claiming that she was missing.
Yeah, he didn't own up to it fast enough.
Like, that's wild.
Fuck.
Thelma actually released a statement after the news and just kind of like, she was just very thankful and is like, you know, my faith in the justice system is restored.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, Mark Hacking is currently serving his time at the Central Utah Correctional Facility. The sad part, I think, is that everyone from both sides, like everyone that knew both of them, say that Laurie would have loved Mark no matter what, like, job or career he had. Which I think is just so sad.
Stupid.
Like, yeah, like he didn't have to lie.
That's like what her letter said too. Even after finding out that he was lying, she was still going to be like, hey, if you are just honest, then I want to grow old with you. And he murdered her. Like,
yeah, and like from what I could tell or like saw, like they did love each other very much. Like,
yeah,
like that. It was a pretty healthy relationship besides all the lying he did.
Besides the murder too.
Yeah, that's true.
But did it have anything to do with that she was pregnant? Why he killed her? Or was it really just because she caught him in the lie, basically?
I believe it because she caught him in a lie, and then he didn't want to risk like it blowing up and like just like divorce and all that, like risking
He stupidly
losing
thought
her.
that getting a divorce would ruin his life, so he
Yeah,
decided to take away someone's life and then be sentenced to prison.
exactly. So that
So
makes
that's a
sense.
better alternative?
Her brother Paul has even been quoted saying that as long as he was doing his best, she would have loved him.
That's heartbreaking.
It is
Oh,
heartbreaking. He also said more about how like she would have been a great mom and stuff, and I was like, stop.
poor Laurie. Oh my god.
The family removed the name Hacking from her headstone,
Good.
and they replaced it with her maiden name Soares, and also they added the Portuguese word Filhina, which translates to little daughter.
Oh, that's so sad.
But yeah, it wasn't all bad. On
Oh,
March 20th, 2006, Utah House Bill 102, aka Laurie's Law, was signed into law.
oh,
It stipulates that people convicted of first degree murder in Utah must serve at least 15 years before they can even be considered for parole. So even if
nice.
they get like sentenced
Like
more,
16 years. They have to be there
yeah,
at least 15.
yeah, they have to be there at least 15.
That's good.
But yeah, and on June 6, 2005, when he was sentenced, Mark's dad made like a statement to the press and basically said like, "This is my final statement. Like after this, like it's over."
Mm-hmm.
And he basically read a quote from Mark or like a letter. It's pretty long, but I'll read it all.
Okay.
Um, I know prison is where I need to be. I will spend my time there doing all I can do to right the many wrongs I have done. Though I realize complete atonement is impossible in this life. I have a lot of healing and changing to do, but I hope that someday I can become the man Laurie always thought I was. To the many people I have hurt, I am more sorry than you could ever know. Every day my soul burns in torment when I think of what you must be going through. I wish I could take away your pain. I wish I could take back all the lies I have told and replace them with the truth. I wish I could put Laurie back into your arms. My pain is deserved, yours is not. From the bottom of my heart, I beg for your forgiveness. There is no such thing as a harmless lie, no matter how small it is. You may think a lie only hurts the liar, but it is far from the truth. If you are traveling a path of lies, please stop now and face the consequences. Whatever the consequences, they will be better than the pain you are causing yourself and others.
Fuck.
So, like, damn, it's pretty deep.
That made me very sad to listen to.
But I also did read that Thelma and him exchanged letters, and that she did like forgive him, just so like she could like
Oh,
move on.
damn. Well, I guess she's probably very religious too, so.
Yeah, she was.
Whew.
And in her honor, her family established the Laurie K. Soares Hacking Memorial Scholarship at the University of Utah's David Eccles School of Business, which is
Oh,
where
that's
she actually
nice.
had like attended.
Oh,
But yeah, the scholarship aids women in disadvantaged situations and those facing personal challenges.
that's sweet.
I was like, damn, that's the sad story of Laurie Hacking.
Do you ever sometimes? I think I've noticed this more recently because obviously we talk about some dark stuff. It's just like you sit there, you just like sit in it, and you're just like, man, I know way too much shitty things.
Yeah,
That's kind of how I felt whenever you were reading that letter. I was like, whew, I need to distract myself after this. Holy
I
shit.
know. I'm probably gonna get high today.
Oh, well, there we go.
Just because work sucked too.
Okay. All right, so now I'm going to be talking about the murder of Janet March. Janet March, maiden name Janet Levine, was born in 1963 in Forest Hills, Tennessee, to parents Lawrence, also known as Larry, and Carolyn Levine. Her father, Larry, was from New York and had earned a law degree in Michigan. When Janet was born, he had been building a practice that eventually led to him becoming one of the most prominent lawyers in Nashville, Tennessee, and raising the Levine family to a prominent position in the city's Jewish community. Janet had one younger brother named Mark, who I found out is now an attorney and is actually currently serving as a delegate from the 45th District of Virginia House of Delegates. And another fun fact, he was an early advocate for same-sex marriage and is the third openly gay person elected to the Virginia House of Delegates. And he worked as a Nazi hunter for a little bit.
What?
I was like, this is the most interesting person in the world.
That is an amazing man right there.
Literally.
There's actually a show, I think, on Prime, Amazon Prime, about that I wanted
Nazi
to
hunters?
watch, but I think so. Have you seen it?
Oh, it's called Nazi Hunters? I was just asking. It's about Nazi
Oh,
hunters.
I don't know what it's called.
I want to watch that. I didn't know that was even a thing.
Super interesting.
I watched some documentary on Netflix, and it was about, they were thinking that this like Polish immigrant in the U.S. was possibly like this awful like Nazi from like during the Holocaust. And it was from that I learned really about like Nazi officer trials and Nazi hunting and stuff. And I was like, this is like insane that this shit happened. I mean, insane that the Holocaust happened in the first place, but Nazi hunters, like, they're great.
Pretty cool though.
Very fucking cool occupation. Go get them. I mean, they're all dead now. The Nazis are, but
not all of them. I don't know how true this is, but somebody was telling me that there's actually like a Nazi that's like 100 and something now, and that they like want him to like, they want to try him for
I think that
for the
they
Holocaust.
should.
They should.
Fuck them.
But
Let their last memories be going to trial.
We were making some pretty bad jokes about it.
Oh yeah.
Like, here, kill yourself or some shit.
Yeah, the one that I watched, I'll look up the name later to tell you, because it was really interesting. But he was like in his like 70s or something, and they're like, well, does he really need to pay for his crimes? And everyone was like, yes. He does.
Age don't matter.
I know, age doesn't matter if you literally murdered people. And then, yeah, it was just so interesting. It was sad though, because they were showing like testimonies from like Holocaust survivors, and just devastating.
Damn.
But anyway, shout out to Mark, because what a god. So Janet did well in her prestigious high school, becoming vice president of her class, before being accepted into University of Michigan, the same school that her father had attended. Janet herself had very different aspirations, though. She wanted to become an artist, perhaps a magazine illustrator. By the time she graduated high school, some of her work was already being exhibited in the city's Jewish Community Center and some restaurants. So, already fucking out there. And she's like 18. That's nutty. No. She must have been very talented. I couldn't find her art online. I was trying to.
Damn.
Friends describe Janet as being sensitive, nurturing, but also offbeat, a ditz, and frequently forgetful and late for things, saying she basically had like a stereotypical artist personality. She did have a more difficult side though, and they noted that it would be hard to be around her if she was in one of her moods. She was extremely passionate about art and had once designed and patented a design for a collapsible baby chair, but never actually looked into having it made and sold, which people were just like, typical Janet. And she was also known for leaving Chicago to go on shopping trips without giving much notice. She was pretty with dark hair and a petite frame. As an adult, she was barely even over 100 pounds. She's like tiny, 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 like the size of me in the 5th grade tiny. Janet enrolled at the University of Michigan and began to pursue a degree in art. During her sophomore year in the early 1980s, she was introduced by her roommate to Perry March. The two made plans to meet up, but she actually accidentally slept through their first date, which was supposed to be a trip to the campus synagogue for, I didn't look up how to say this, but Rosh Hashanah services, which is like the Jewish New Year. She was able to smooth things over, and the couple soon became extremely close. Wish that they didn't work it out, must say.
Damn.
Perry March was born in 1961 to Arthur and Zipporah Markovich. His father, Arthur, who went by Art, was the son of a Romanian Jewish immigrant who had moved and settled in East Chicago, Illinois. Art became a pharmacist and actually legally changed his last name in 1956 to March, since the U.S. Army, who had him on reserves, kept misspelling it on checks. He denies claims that people thought he was trying to hide the fact that he was Jewish. Because he was like, no, they just kept fucking up my checks. Perry's mom and Art's wife, Zipporah, was born in Israel to, I think it was to Belarusian parents. Art and Zipporah had 2 more children after Perry, Ron and Kathy. In 1970, Zipporah died in unusual circumstances. So Art says that her death was the result of anaphylactic shock brought on by meds she'd taken for pain relief. Like, basically, she had an allergic reaction. But state and city death certificates state that her cause of death was an accidental overdose. And it is widely believed that Zipporah had actually committed suicide. And stories of an accident were used back then because there was like such a stigma surrounding suicide. Like, I guess doctors who were practicing during that era were like, yeah, if people overdose, we'd just be like, oh, it was an accident, but also the pill bottle was fucking empty. Yeah.
Damn.
Following the death of Zipporah, the March family moved to their vacation home in Michigan, and Perry was sent to a boarding school. His boarding school was in Indiana, and he did really well in his classes, eventually graduating with honors. As well as being like book smart, Perry was also fairly athletic, and in his free time played tennis and took karate classes, where he eventually reached the rank of a first-degree black belt. Those who knew him regarded him as being a super competitive tennis player who simply refused to lose, that had some rough edges, and was focused on becoming financially successful. In 1978, Art March retired as a lieutenant colonel, and his pension became his main source of income. Keeping his dad's financial situation in mind, Perry chose to go to school at the University of Michigan as the tuition was cheaper than going out of state. He was also interested in the school's Chinese studies program and made that his major. He was drawn to Janet for her beauty and southern accent, but also for her whimsical and artistic personality and offbeat but perceptive sense of humor. In 1983, Perry left Michigan to move to Chicago, with Janet following suit about 6 months later. They lived there for about 2 years as Perry worked for an investment bank and Janet took classes at local art institutes. Janet had begun to get homesick and was able to convince Perry to move back with her and settle in Nashville, Tennessee. Another incentive for him to move was that Janet's parents, who were wealthy, offered to pay for him to go to law school there.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That's nice.
Because you were talking about like the people in your story getting along with their son-in-law, and I was like, these people really like their son-in-law, and were like, we'll pay for you to go to law school.
That's badass.
I know. And once in school, he excelled academically. He was pretty smart.
He actually went.
He actually went. Yeah, I know, he really went. In 1987, Janet and Perry married. I thought this was actually kind of cute and funny, but apparently Janet had gotten so tired of waiting for Perry to propose, she got down on her knees and proposed herself in a local park.
Oh my god.
As a gift to the newlyweds, Janet's parents gave them money to buy a house in a nice area of Nashville.
Damn, bro.
I know. I'm like, why couldn't I marry into this family instead of Perry? What the fuck?
That's fucking nice.
I know. So, obviously, like I said, the Levines were very well off, and they even helped out their son-in-law's dad, Art. So, Art's home, Brandy, they seem very chill.
Wow.
Art's home was foreclosed on in 1986, and Larry, which is Jan's dad, actually bought the property back from the bank and then allowed Art to live in it rent-free, but did later encourage him to also move to Nashville to be close to the couple. So, that was Art's story, what he said, but it's a little questionable because according to county records, Larry may have ended the lease with Art due to not being paid before selling the house later on. So I don't know, but I don't really know why Art would lie and make them seem nicer if they
or maybe that was the truth, and then later on.
Oh,
you know what I
could
mean?
be. Yeah, they didn't say how long he was living there or anything, so I'm not totally sure. But regardless of whatever happened there, Art did soon move to Nashville himself. When he first arrived, Larry and Carolyn allowed him to stay with them for free and loaned him money to establish himself.
Wow.
So I have a hard time imagining that they ended on a bad note, you know?
Weird.
It's so weird. Despite this, Art filed for bankruptcy in 1991 and had also gone around town telling people how he retired from the army as a full colonel who had served with the Green Berets and on special forces missions to Israel, which according to the service records was all a lie. He never reached that level. He was barely even in active duty. He was mostly just working at like pharmacies for the military.
Damn.
Yeah, and at some
liar.
He's a little liar. But at some point, Art moved to Lake Chapala in Mexico, because I guess that apparently a lot of like veterans would move there because to retire because it was just like cheap as shit and like pretty, you know. So following his graduation from law school, Perry was offered jobs in New York, but ended up taking one at Bass, Berry, and Sims, a Nashville law firm where he was one of the first Jewish people hired in the predominantly white and Christian workplace. I guess that him and like other people who were like other races like black and stuff or that were hired all at the same time conveniently would joke that they were there as a result of like affirmative action. He later claimed that the firm was anti-Semitic and racist, but at the time being, at least it was going well, and Perry's starting salary was $42,500, which is equal to around $85,000 today. As for Janet, she had begun to illustrate children's books. In 1990, the couple had their first child, a boy named Samson, and in 1994 had daughter Zipporah, who was named after her deceased grandmother. Also, really hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. I looked it up and I was only able to find like one person who said it, and I hope it's correct. It's spelled how you'd expect. It's like Tzipora. But I think that the T's silent.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. I don't really mention it too much more after this. In the summer of 1991, a paralegal at Perry's law firm found a typewritten letter on her desk chair written by a secret admirer. The letter was several pages long, single-spaced, and described how the writer was attracted to the paralegal, saying, "I want to inhale the essence of you. I want to taste your arms. The pure animal sexiness of your body grips me and embarrasses me." It went on to describe the paralegal's perfect body and say, in very vivid detail, how the writer wanted to go down on her for hours and hours. He wrote, "If I were granted a single wish in life, I would not hesitate for that wish to be to devour you. This is what I think of most often." The letter writer also made it clear he was married, writing, "I have always wondered about men who have affairs. I could never understand them. But also that marriage has a way of making sex boring at times, routine and old." He reiterated how he loved his wife dearly and that if he had an affair, it would devastate her, which breaks his heart, adding, "I'm lost. I've read that when a person drowns, they fight savagely for air, and then fate ultimately defeats them and they succumb. They say it feels so good, so comforting." Apparently, he didn't feel that fucking bad, though, because he also wrote, "I want you to cry because you never knew how good it could be."
What the fuck?
What the fuck, dude? So the paralegal was obviously hella creeped out just finding this on her chair, and she handed the letter onto her boss, who handed it to management, who then hired a security firm to find out who had written this letter. 2 weeks later, the paralegal received a second letter, this one much shorter and got straight to the point, saying, "This is an indication. If you should ever consider or wish to communicate, check out the library, the tax management estates, gifts and trust portfolio number 134 through 4th, titled Annuities, located near the Westlaw Terminal on the 25th floor in the library. When you check it out, insert a library checkout card signed by you in its place. I will periodically notice if it's gone. If so, I will contact you to let you know how to reach me anonymously." Very specific, very thought through. Now that the security firm knew exactly where the writer would be, they laid out a plan. With the help of the paralegal, they were going to set up surveillance cameras pointing at this specific book and have her check out the book and like leave the thing there so as to get the writer to walk over. It was a stupidly easy plan that worked. The writer walked right into view. And I'm assuming this is while like the tape was being reviewed or like they didn't notice for a while, but they actually had time to write another ecstatic letter. And this last one that the paralegal received, the writer wrote, "My world is far less gray today than has ever been in my life. I feel like the lucky leprechaun who has seen the rainbow and knows what lays beyond. And I feel like the leprechaun, I wonder if I'll ever find it." He wrote more about how he longed for the paralegal and asked her to write him a letter back and hide it in a different book that was never checked out. By now, the ruse was up, and the security firm had identified the man in the video as 30-year-old Perry March. Management called Perry into a conference and gave him two choices. Either he was to resign or he was going to be fired. And if he did resign, he had to agree to seek professional help. While Perry weighed his options, the paralegal was given a paid vacation, but was horrified upon returning to find that Perry was still there, where he worked on the same floor as her and shared the same parking lot where they would run into each other. Obviously terrified, she quit and hired a lawyer. Within 2 weeks of the paralegal quitting, Perry was fired by the company. In order to avoid a lawsuit, he agreed to pay the paralegal a total of $25,000 over the course of the next 4 years, with the first $12,500 being monthly installments, and the second half being a lump sum at the end of the 4 years.
Damn.
And somehow, Perry was able to keep these payments a secret from Janet. No idea how. I guess that they probably made good money. But he did start to attend marriage counseling with his wife. Not that it's going to help if you're not being honest about why you're there, but following his departure from his former law office, Perry began to work at his father-in-law's firm, where he did well. Outsiders believed the couple to be happy and successful. Even Perry described himself as like the doer in the relationship, while Janet was the eccentric visionary. But of course, not everything was as it seemed. In 1993, Perry confessed to his mother-in-law, who had become like a mother to him since he lost his own so young, that he and Janet were having marital problems. Around the same time, Janet's friends began to notice that she seemed depressed sometimes, although she didn't discuss with them what was going on in her marriage. By 1994, the couple had their 2 children and wanted to move into a larger house. With the help of Larry and Carolyn, they bought a 4-acre lot, which they spent a year and $650,000 turning into a 5,300 square feet country French-style home. Janet's dream home. Janet even got to choose the name of the street where the house is built, eventually settling on Blackberry Road, which I thought was cute. On one article I read, they said that she originally wanted to call it like Chocolate Street, but the neighbors who bought the other lots complained, so she was like, fine, whatever, and changed it to this. Bitches. Right?
I actually discovered, like a few years ago, that here in Esco, there's a street, a gay street.
Gay Street?
Yeah.
I'm moving.
I know, I was like, I want to live there.
I saw it.
Like, can I live on 420 Gay Street?
420 Gay Street, shut the fuck up. I remember driving through Escondido and I passed a road that was called Wizardly Place. And I was like, hey!
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a few interesting names.
I like it. So while this dream house was being built, Janet, who I mentioned could be difficult, repeatedly butted heads with construction workers. She had very specific ideas in mind and would reportedly frequently threaten to call her husband or father, both of whom were lawyers, if the work wasn't to her standards. Yeah, kind of funny. Sometimes Perry would have to come and like smooth things over during these situations, and a lot of the workers found that he was better to talk to than her, basically. Mm-hmm. So, unsurprisingly, moving into a new house did not fix their marriage, and things only got worse between Janet and Perry. Perry had begun to spend nights away from the home, and some friends claimed to see him out in the company of other women. He said later on that that's just because he was a lawyer. He had to take women out. Like, that's just part of the job. Who knows? He also reportedly spoke to a wealthy client and asked if he could move into a spare condo in downtown Nashville, but it wasn't available. On the nights that Perry was home, the two would frequently fight, sometimes even in front of their kids, which made Carolyn tell her son-in-law that if that continued, he would have to move out. She was not cool with her grandkids hearing this shit. Perry again confided in her, telling her that he thought Janet was probably considering divorcing him. He was almost definitely right, as later on the Marsh's housekeeper stated that she had seen a book on divorce on Janet's night table in early 1996. That summer, the two again began to seek marriage counseling, but even during these sessions would argue so much that the psychiatrist suggested the couple try a trial separation. In one of their last sessions, Janet asked Perry if he had confided in the psychiatrist why he had left his first lawyer job. The psychiatrist noted this down as Perry had told them it was due to conflict with a coworker. So, I don't know if maybe that means that Janet had found out what really happened, or like it didn't really say the context of this, like if it was suspicious. It was just noted. According to Perry, after the trial separation was suggested, he had rented a house to live in while they tried that out, but had not yet moved into it. In mid-August, Perry wrote a letter to the paralegal he had been sexually harassing years before, asking if the $12,500 payment that was now due could be delayed until October, as he was struggling to come up with the money. Which is stupid, by the way. He had 4 years to save up that money, but okay. On August 14th, 1996, Ella Goldschmidt, the March's part-time nanny who watched the kids just twice a week, noticed that instead of talking to her per usual, Janet seemed very withdrawn and told her that she'd be working on her computer all day. She also closed the office door behind her, which the nanny had never seen her do before. The next day, Janet spoke to friends who said that she seemed a little distracted and kind of afraid of Perry, but she did make plans to have a play date the next morning with Marissa Moody, the mother of one of Samson's friends. At some point, Janet and Carolyn also made an appointment to see a divorce lawyer for the following day, August 16th. On the afternoon of August 15th, 2 cabinet workers had come by the March's home to do some warranty work, just like installing new countertops and tightening a faucet. Janet watched them closely as they worked while Perry played with his 2 children outside. The work was done within an hour and the 2 left, and these were the last people outside the March family to see Janet. That evening, Perry claims that the couple put their kids to bed before getting into an argument. At around 8, he offered to go stay at a hotel, as he had been for most of the last couple of weeks, but Janet told him no. She said she was leaving, and when he asked where to, she responded, "None of your business. I'll see you in a couple days and see how it is with the kids." Perry recalled that Janet packed clothes into 2 bags in a suitcase, grabbed her passport, a few $1,000s in cash, a bag of weed, and a list of things to do while she was gone before driving off in her Volvo at around 8:30. The weed thing was extra weird to me because it has not mentioned anywhere else that she smoked. So I don't know what the fuck that was about.
Sus.
Extremely. A little after 9, phone records show that Perry began to call friends and family to tell them that Janet had left him and the kids. He first called his brother and sister, who both live near Chicago. Then at 10 p.m., he called Laurel Rummel, a longtime friend of Janet, who he had confided in about their marital issues. It wasn't until midnight that Perry finally called Larry and Carolyn Levine. And while Carolyn did think it was unlike Janet to walk out of a fight, she just told Perry to have her daughter call whenever she returned. The next morning, Janet's absence from the home was noted before too long. When the March's housekeeper arrived between 8:30, Perry told her that Janet had gone to California on a business trip, then instructed her not to clean the children's playroom. The housekeeper also noted that the house seemed like it had already been cleaned. Around 9:30-10, Ella the nanny arrived and was told that Janet was in California, but instead of a work trip, Perry told her that Janet had gone to visit her brother. Ella thought it was weird that Janet had left so suddenly, as she usually let her know in advance when she was going out of town, and she would leave instructions behind. By 10 a.m., the housekeeper had left and Marissa Moody had arrived with her son for his play date. She was a little annoyed as neither Perry nor Janet came out to greet her when she rang the doorbell, and she felt like the couple didn't accept her, like they kept her at arm's length, possibly because she was a divorced mom of 2. Samson let her and her son inside through the kitchen door and told them that his mom wasn't home. Marissa watched as Samson bounced up and down on a rolled-up rug just outside the kitchen, next to the kids' playroom. She noted this as odd, as it wasn't really the March's style. They preferred showing off their home's hardwood floors, not covering them, they were more minimalist. Perry, who didn't seem to know about the playdate, came out as a result of the doorbell ringing, but told Marissa the playdate was fine, and just went back to work. She left for a few hours and came to pick up her son around 2 p.m. Perry was not home at the time, and she noticed that the rug she'd seen earlier was gone. But it should be noted that the housekeeper and nanny do not remember seeing a rug. So I don't really know. When Marissa was picking up her son, Perry was getting lunch with Janet's friend Laurel Rummel, the one that he'd called the night before. They had previously scheduled a meeting to discuss Perry's desire to get new carpet for his law office, but she noticed that he seemed a little emotional regarding Janet and had a hard time concentrating. Based on the context, I think that she was a fucking designer or something, or sold carpets. After lunch, Perry went back home and picked up his kids to take them to the Levine's house. He and Larry then went to Nashville International Airport and drove around the parking lots looking for Jan's car, which they could find no sign of. That night, when helping put the kids to bed, Carolyn saw a yellow notepad next to the March's computer with a handwritten list of chores similar to the one that Jan had left behind, but at the top of the page were the words 2 weeks written in Perry's handwriting and circled. While initially the Levines believed Perry's story, by the night of August 17th, Carolyn was getting pretty worried, as it was unlike Janet, who was known for being a loving and protective mom, to leave her kids for that long without telling anyone. She wanted to call the police, but Perry and his brother Ron, who had come into town to help out, told her that she should wait the 12 days, as that was the number of days that she'd left instructions for on her list. That same night, Perry called his dad Art, who said he was going to drive up to Nashville and come help with the children, and he arrived several days later. So this list of chores was actually a major concern for the Levines. It wasn't uncommon for Janet and Perry too to leave lists of things to do, but this one was a little off. The list had been typed out and printed, which Carolyn thought was unusual, as usually Janet would handwrite her list or she'd dictate it to someone else to write. The list also had correct capitalization and had the date written on the bottom, wherein Janet's lists were always lowercase only, and she would normally date them on the top of the page. Also next to the date was Perry's signature, where Janet had supposedly typed, "I agree to do all of this above before Jan's vacation," in response to Perry's "cowardly, rash, and confused vacation is over." The list was just 23 things that were pretty basic, like feed the kids healthy meals, call the driveway guy, etc., etc. But one thing missing that concerned Janet's parents was that the list made no mention of the play date that Janet had scheduled with Marissa Moody. When asked about this later on, Perry said that he was the one who scheduled the play date, not Janet, a claim which Marissa denies. Not long after Janet disappeared, her brother Mark flew over from California to come help the family. While everyone was at the Levine's house, he asked Perry if he could see the list of chores on the March's computer, to which Perry agreed. The two drove over to the March's home in separate cars, and Mark noticed that Perry was driving super fast, and he arrived earlier than Mark did. When Mark arrived, he found the door to be locked, and he had to ring the doorbell several times before Perry let him in. He was able to look at the file, which he saw was dated the night that Janet had left, and matching the story that Perry gave. But while he was on the computer, he also noticed something else. A 6-page long, single-spaced, and undented list made by Janet of all the times that Perry had wronged her.
Damn.
Yeah. Perry gave Mark permission to print this paper out, but it was the 90s. Mark was unable to figure out how to print it, and Perry was no help and didn't tell him. He was never able to print out the files, and I'm assuming that they later on were deleted. If that's not the most me thing to happen in any investigation, they're like, "Oh yeah, you can print it out." I'd be like, "How do I print it?" The Levines later claimed that Perry began to look for the services of a criminal defense attorney on August 23rd, 1996. Near the end of those 12 days, the Levines and Perry began to get really worried that Janet was in trouble, as Samson's 6th birthday party was supposed to be held on August 25th, and there was no way she would miss that. Perry later said that he had wanted to report Janet as missing, but the Levines had told him not to because they didn't want to embarrass their daughter. Of course, like I mentioned before, they said the opposite. Perry told them not to report her as missing. Well, he said, they said. The birthday party went ahead as planned, but Janet was a no-show. Guests who asked about her were told by Perry that she had been visiting her brother in California, but she got an ear infection and was advised not to fly until it was cured. They all bought this story because they had no reason not to. The day after the party, Art left Nashville to go to Chicago. When Carolyn asked Perry why, he responded that his dad had a big mouth and tells everything, and he also later exclaimed in front of her, "That fucking Janet ruined my life," which shocked Carolyn, as she'd never heard Perry talk about her daughter like that before. Also, why would you say that to her mom?
Yeah,
I guess they must have been really close if he was just fucking complaining about her like it wasn't her daughter.
Fuck that bitch.
I know, and she's like, excuse me, I birthed that bitch.
She's like, okay.
On August 29th, 2 weeks after 33-year-old Janet was last seen, the Levines reported her as missing to the Nashville Police Department. Police began by looking through hospital admissions and checking Janet's credit cards and bank accounts, but found no trace of where she could be. They, too, also thought it seemed odd that Janet had missed out on her son's birthday party. On one occasion, when the police had come to the Levines' house, Mark noted that Perry, who was also there, seemed extremely nervous when they pulled up, and it actually took him several tries to stand up as he couldn't stop shaking. They're super, super normal, casual things. Around a week after Janet was reported as missing on September 7th, her car was found backed into a parking spot in an apartment complex about 5 miles away from where she lived. The car appeared to have been sitting there and used for a bit, as there was a layer of dust on the outside and spider webs in the wheel wells. Inside of the car was Janet's purse with her ID, credit cards, passport, and $11 in cash. There was also a $50 bill in the glove compartment, a suitcase filled with clothes, and a small bag with toiletry items. The investigators thought it was weird that Janet's suitcase, which had some sundresses in it, didn't have any bras in it, and the toiletry bag was missing toothpaste and a hairbrush. So it was very like, whoever packed this wasn't really thinking about what she would bring. The passenger seat of the car had been pushed back while the driver's seat was pulled up close to the wheel, and on the floor of the passenger seat were a pair of Janet's sandals. The shoes seemed to be carefully positioned there and didn't appear to be in any like normal position you'd expect after someone took off their shoes. Missing from the car was a gray suitcase that Perry had said Janet took with her. The same day that the car was found, the Levines hired a private investigator. The PI spoke to Perry and made note of the fact that he referred to his missing wife in the past tense. Big, big, big red flag. Following her interview with Perry, the PI headed to the apartment complex where Jan's car was found and tried to speak to the residents there to see if anyone had spotted a person leaving the Volvo. When Perry found out that she was doing that, he called her angry and demanded that she fax him a full list of everyone she talked to and what they said before hanging up on her. Kind of weird, kind of suspect. On September 10th, police interviewed Perry, who appeared anxious. They informed him of his Miranda rights, and Perry said he understood as he was an attorney. He then hand-wrote a statement saying his version of what happened that night. And just said what I said before. Got into a fight, she left, she randomly had weed, whatever. On September 12th, Nashville police searched Perry's car, a Jeep. The same investigator who had previously searched Jan's car searched this one and found hair and fiber evidence in the back seat. They later said that while the car didn't appear to have been cleaned recently, they could smell some type of cleaner disinfectant in it. On the weekend of September 14th through 15th, Perry took his children to Chicago to observe the Rosh Hashanah holiday with his family, but Art was unable to afford the trip himself. While he was out of town, the Nashville police worked on getting a search warrant for the house, and on the 16th, they informed Perry's lawyer that they would be executing their search the next day. Upon searching the home, police found that the computer's hard drive had been forcibly removed and was nowhere to be found. And during this weekend, Perry acknowledged that the burglar alarm had gone off while he was out of town. Shortly after the search, Perry moved with his kids to the Chicago area, renting a house near where his brother lived. With him, he took most of his and Jan's possessions, and on September 18th, a friend of the Marches, Andrew Sachs, was helping Perry pack up his home and recalled that Perry seemed businesslike but also irritated, at one point saying that he wanted to fuck the Levines and fuck the Nashville police, and not answering Andrew's offer to help him look for Janet. This encounter left Andrew very concerned. After the move to Chicago, Andrew's wife, Diane, who had been friends with Janet for a long time, spoke to Perry on the phone. While they were talking, Perry suddenly asked her if she thought that he'd killed Janet. She was obviously surprised, and before she could even answer, he continued and asked what she may say if he told her that he'd put Janet's body in his car, driven away while the children were sleeping alone in the house, and returned like nothing happened. Andrew, who I'm guessing was probably like fucking listening in, took the receiver from his wife and told Perry not to call them anymore. Can you, like, what kind of hypothetical? What if I took her and left my kids alone in the house and came back like nothing ever happened? By now, the Levines believed that this hypothetical question to Janet's friend had been exactly what happened to their daughter. Many friends also began to deem Perry as sketchy, given the way he was acting and that he didn't answer or return their calls offering support. Pretty soon, police too began to see Perry as a possible suspect in the disappearance of his wife. Investigators also found that around a week after Janet had gone missing, Perry had gone and bought a new set of tires for his Jeep, even though the tires on his car were in great condition and didn't need replacing. The store owner themselves told Perry this, but Perry insisted on the change, saying he wanted to switch brands. The police also noticed that before Janet went missing, she would normally use only a Visa card, while Perry almost exclusively used a MasterCard. But since she had left, he'd been using both, and of course she was using neither. They also heard from a woman who went to school with Perry and claimed that Perry had once punched her in the face in a fit of jealousy, which he denied. Yeah. Reportedly, he said, "She was a slut. I fucked her for a few months. Then she came back from vacation, told me she had crabs, and I dumped her." She said that she never even slept with him. So,
Damn.
what the fuck? Yeah.
That's fucked up.
The police announced that they would now be treating Janet's missing person case as a homicide investigation. Helicopters, divers, cadaver dogs, and thermal imaging devices were used by investigators in the wooded area surrounding the March home to look for Janet's body. Even psychics' tips were investigated, but to no avail. Perry's lawyer told police that their client would no longer be cooperating with their investigation, and that if they wanted to search the property more, they would have to get a warrant. This, along with him missing Janet's memorial service in November of that year, further painted Perry as guilty in many people's eyes. In January of 1997, a local paper, the Nashville Scene, reported on Janet's case and outlined the police's theory as to what happened. So, reportedly, they believe that on the night of August 15th, the couple had gotten into a fight, possibly because Janet had found a letter he'd written to the paralegal, and Perry, probably on accident, had killed his wife. It's possible that he had used a move he learned in karate, and this move had deadly consequences. His old karate instructor actually said that being a black belt, he definitely knew ways, moves that you could kill somebody much smaller than you, and they wouldn't even bleed, headlocks, sternum punches. They think he made the list of chores, and after hiding Jan's body, they think that Perry packed up her things that she took, loaded his mountain bike into her car, and drove it into the apartment parking lot where he abandoned it and rode the bike home. They theorized that Janet had possibly been temporarily rolled up into the oversized rug that Samson was seen bouncing on by Marissa Moody the next morning, which, if that's correct, means that he was bouncing on his mom's dead body, which is terrifying. And they think that Perry was planning to dispose of it later that day, likely in a dumpster. So whenever you said the rolled up rug in a dumpster, Brandy, I was like, this is weird. It's unclear where and when Janet's body was disposed of, but police did consider the possibility that Perry was waiting for his dad Art to arrive and help him get rid of it. They also thought perhaps Art had broken into the home and taken out the hard drive before the search where they found it missing. So whenever that burglar alarm went off, it might have been Art. Perry was interviewed for this article and spoke of himself as the real victim in this case. He said, "Look at me. On August 15, 1996, I was a respected Jewish lawyer in Nashville. I had it all. Beautiful wife, 2 wonderful kids, gorgeous home. I was a go-to guy in the Jewish community and the business community. I was making good money. Now my wife has left me." He told the interviewer his plans to pay off the Nashville house, which was technically owned by Larry Levine, and move back into the home and rebuild his life, saying, "I will not allow one misguided police officer, one vengeful man, and a few low-life journalists to destroy what I've taken years to build." He's the victim here, Brandy.
I don't think so, but okay.
So the next few years were filled with tons of civil litigation between Perry and the Levines, which I'll try to quickly summarize because there's a lot of it. In October of 1996, Perry petitioned to have himself appointed the administrator of Janet's assets in her absence, a move that the Levines disagreed with. A conservator was appointed to protect Janet's property, while Levines and Perry were warned that they should resolve their issues quickly. After Perry moved to Chicago, the Levines complained that he was basically being a fucking asshole and either not giving them items of Janet's that they had been granted by the court, or he would return it to them damaged. On one occasion, they alleged that they had driven out to pick up some of these items before Perry informed them that they had actually been moved to Indiana. He just didn't tell them until they already got there and wasted their time.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Not long after the Chicago move, the Levines filed a motion for grandparent visitation rights. Perry, of course, disagreed with this motion and said the real reason they wanted their grandkids was so they would allow police and or media to interview Samson. In March of 1999, a court-appointed family lawyer went to visit Perry about the visitation case and found it super disturbing that there were absolutely no pictures or mementos of Janet in the house. The lawyer filed a report recommending that visitation be given to the Levines, an action which angered Perry, who threatened to disappear with the kids to Singapore in response. At some point that same year, Perry was disbarred for misconduct unrelated to Janet or the Levines. So as well as being like fucked up in this situation, apparently you're just going doing fucked up shit elsewhere too. In late 1999, the Levines were finally awarded visitation rights and went to Chicago to get their grandchildren, where they were informed by Perry's brother that he had actually moved along with the kids to his father's home in Mexico. Within a week of settling in Mexico, Perry met a local woman named Carmen Rojas, who he soon married. And I read on one source that they may have ended up having a kid together, but not totally sure on that. Back in Nashville, the Levines, who were of course fucking upset, had Janet legally declared dead and filed a wrongful death suit against Perry. Perry did not show up in court or send a lawyer to defend himself, and so by default, the Levines won the case, and Perry was ordered to pay them $113 million, a decision which he soon appealed. In May of 2000, the Levines showed up to Mexico and demanded to see their grandchildren, but were denied this by Perry and Art. They went back to Nashville, but returned to Mexico once again a month later. This time, they had a Mexican court order with them. So Perry was arrested with charges that he had violated the terms of his visa, and while he was distracted getting this charge dropped, the Levines went to their grandchildren's school, took them, and then literally outran Art, who was chasing them to the airport, and flew back to Nashville with the kids. The visitation order they had been granted gave them custody for 39 days, but as soon as they got back to the U.S., they began the process of obtaining full custody. So unfortunately, while I thought this was pretty fucking baller and brave of them, 2 lawyers in Tennessee agreed with Perry that this is technically abduction and agreed to represent him for free.
No.
I was like, this is the best case of abduction, though.
Yeah. It needed to happen.
It needed to. They went to court where Perry's lawyers alleged that the children had been kidnapped, and while they did receive visitation, that didn't give them the right to take them to another country. The Levines argued that since they'd been given custody in the U.S., when they arrived back to the country, their custody was valid once again. They also alleged that the children were at a grave risk of harm staying with Perry. In October of 1999, a judge favored on Perry's side. While the Levines did win the wrongful death suit, which made him look extra sketchy, at no point in that suit did they ever claim that the children had witnessed Janet's murder or were at risk of being killed themselves. Janet's parents were ordered to give the children back to Perry once the 39 days had passed. They appealed this decision, but again, a judge ruled in Perry's favor. By 2003, Perry had been working as a business and financial advisor in Mexico and had started a cafe with his new wife. The same year, he had another victory when the Tennessee Court of Appeals overturned the wrongful death judgment against him. While to Perry, I'm sure it seemed like he was getting away with murder, the Nashville Police Department was determined to not let that happen. They began to look into Perry's business since he'd been in Mexico and learned that in 2001, he had told a Mexican lawyer that he would do away with us the way he did with his wife. Well, in late 2004, the Nashville PD began to secretly present evidence against Perry to a grand jury. The grand jury returned an indictment on charges of second-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and abuse of a corpse. These proceedings also went on secretly as the FBI worked with Mexican authorities to secure the paperwork for Perry's arrest and extradition. In August of 2005, Perry was getting ready to open his cafe for the day when he was arrested. He began to speak to authorities who reminded Perry that he didn't legally have to speak, but he continued anyway. On the way back to the U.S., he told the detective that it was time to close this chapter of my life, and spoke of how he'd be willing to plead guilty in Janet's murder if the sentence would be kept under 7 years. He also spoke with the detective about prison, asking what it was like and stuff, and asked what evidence they had in the case, if they had found Janet's body, and asked, hypothetically, if someone could be found guilty of second-degree murder if the death was an accident. Hypothetically.
Sure. That's
He's really loving these hypotheticals.
Know...
Yeah, my friend actually asked.
Yeah, my friend wants to know if,
Would they be found guilty? Upon returning to Nashville, Perry was sent to the county jail, where on his first night he spoke to another inmate who was charged with attempted murder. According to this inmate, Russell Ferris, Perry said he wanted to speak to him privately and later offered to have his bond posted if he would go and kill the Levines. Oh. One of the ways he'd hoped to pay for this bond, the murder for hire bond, was from a cash advance from a novel Perry had written about the murder of a small, dark-haired woman. Probably not inspired by Janet at all, you know? The two spoke like this for a month before Russell told his lawyer about it, and they together went to tell the police. It was planned for Russell's following conversations with Perry to be recorded, and in the recordings, he told him Art's phone number in Mexico and code words to let him know that Perry had allowed the call. Russell was later transferred to another jail, telling Perry that he was being released, and Perry gave him a paper with the Levine's address written on it. After Russell was transferred, another inmate said that Perry confided in him that the night of Janet's disappearance, the two had been arguing about him cheating on her, and Janet had threatened to divorce him and take everything. Perry became upset, and the fight turned physical, and ended with Perry hitting her in the head with a wrench and killing her. The inmate claims that Perry disposed of Janet's body by burning it and pouring the ashes into a lake. A third inmate, who was next to Perry, recalled that after one of the child custody hearings, Perry came back visibly upset at the Levines and said to himself it should have been them that he had taken care of instead of before he trailed off and turned pale.
Damn.
Honestly, the worst liar in the world. But anyway, several phone calls were being recorded between Russell and Art. And in these, Art told him what time to go to the Levines, how to get a gun, what kind of gun to get, to make sure to wear gloves, and how to get to Mexico after these murders. So Art was set up and told to meet Russell at an airport in Guadalajara, but when he arrived, he was detained by authorities instead. He later pled guilty to the charges of, conspiring for murder, whatever, and was given a reduced sentence if he gave evidence against his son. Back in Nashville, Perry had extra charges added. 2 counts of solicitation to commit murder and 2 counts of conspiring to commit murder by federal prosecutors. And these were the charges that Art faced. Sorry, didn't write them down with Art's. But Art actually got to remain in Mexico for the time being and said that if they tried to extradite him to the U.S., he would forcefully resist them. In April 2006, Perry was found guilty of something totally irrelevant. Apparently, he had embezzled $23,000 from Larry Levine's firm years before Janet even disappeared. In June of 2006, nearly a full decade after Janet disappeared, Perry went on trial for her murder. There were tons of witnesses on the prosecutor's side, including one friend of Janet who said while she didn't know Perry to be physically abusive, she did see him on occasion verbally abuse Janet, and he was very critical of his wife. The jury also heard from a resident of the apartment where Janet's car was found, who said that they had been getting home from work around 1 a.m. the night she left, and was surprised to see a man walking a mountain bike past them. DNA experts said that the hair found in the back of the search cars were consistent with hair found in Janet's hairbrush, and the fibers matched the color of the rug that Marissa Moody said she had seen. A video of Art was shown in the trial, in which he spoke badly about Janet and the Levines, who he said he had thought about killing since at least 2002. In the tape, he also confirmed that Perry had killed Janet that night, and that he himself had disposed of the computer's hard drive per Perry's request. Art claimed that a few weeks after Janet was murdered, Perry drove him out to a wooded area and told him where he had hidden her body in a leaf bag. He went to go find the bag, which he believed weighed about 50 to 60 pounds, and brought it back to the car. The two then headed to a motel in Kentucky, and while Perry slept in the motel, Art took the Jeep and drove to the other side of town, where he was initially planning to throw Janet's remains in a creek, but he gave up on this idea because none seemed deep enough, and instead buried the bag, Janet's remains, and her clothes within a large pile of brush. Later on, investigators took him to go find her body, but he was unable to tell them exactly where it was. Nonetheless, they still believed his story to be true. The trial lasted a week, and the jury deliberated for 10 hours before finding Perry March guilty of murdering Janet. For all of these charges, he was eventually sentenced to a total of 56 years in prison. The same day, Art was also sentenced, but to just 5 years. Only a few months after Art was sentenced, he ended up dying in prison. Not sure how. I'm assuming it was more health-related stuff because it didn't say.
Karma.
It was karma, yeah. Perry has appealed his sentence several times over the years, but none have worked, and today he still remains at Morgan County Correctional Complex in Tennessee. In 2014, Perry spoke to reporters and said occasionally he will still hear from his daughter, who's now an adult, but he has not heard from Sampson since he was found guilty of their mother's murder. The Levines worked to make changes to Tennessee law regarding visitation rights. Their changes expanded grandparent visitation rights and allowed judges to terminate the custody rights of parents found criminally or civilly liable for the death of the other parent. These changes were passed and are actually now a law. And an art gallery at Nashville's Gordon Jewish Community Center was named after Janet as a memorial for her. As of 2021, Janet's body has still not been found. Yeah, that's my story. It was a long one.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, thank you all for listening. If you want to tell us any of your own stories, say hello, whatever, you can email us at thespookyshit.pod@gmail.com. And our website is spookyshit-pod.com. Anything to add before we go, Brandy?
It's a boy.
It's a boy! That was perfect. Thank you. All right. Talk to y'all next week. Goodbye.
Bye.